watch out for the physics treatments, right?
Have you ever had an Attractors right up your ass with John
Welcome to the Psychic Guys. Today we welcome Richard Wickes, who is a Daoist energy worker based in Hong Kong. Richard tells me that Daoists are very mysterious and hard to define, so we're going to hand over to him to fill us in on the finer details of his practice. Welcome, Richard.
Hi. Well, thanks very much. Thanks to David and thanks to Daz. I've got to say, I'm in Chiang Mai. I used to live in Hong Kong. I lived in Hong Kong for 11 years. Yeah, love it there. Still go to Hong Kong. I'm back over there in a couple of weeks. I go there regularly, but I'm really based in Chiang Mai now. And Daoist, yeah, Daoists. So Daoism for me is a good catch-all for people who are on a journey. So Dao means the road. They're on a journey to self-discovery. And that means they're not really, probably not going to be very culty and following some sort of guru or master. That it's kind of like, this is my journey. It's me. I've got to be the one that takes responsibility and decides where I go, how I get there. And really the idea is nature. So return to nature, return to your own nature. So you can be a Daoist and a Christian, a Daoist and a Buddhist, and you can be Daoist and a nothing atheist. It really doesn't matter. So Daoism is such a great catch-all. And I love all the philosophy around that. And then energy work, it blew me away as a concept when I first came across it. And then I was doing Kung Fu. I was 18 or 19. And I thought, wow, this is an amazing concept. And I thought it's the sweat that I feel on my fingers. I thought that was energy. You know, Daz is laughing. Yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah, it's like there's something there.
I've definitely felt myself. I definitely feel the energy in Qigong more than Tai Chi, but Qigong definitely.
Well, it was kind of Qigong that's how can I say, it caused everything, because there was a time I was in China. I arrived in Hong Kong June the 3rd, 1989, and June the 3rd is the day before June the 4th in 1989 was when there was an incident in the Square of Heavenly Peace called Tiananmen. You remember, yeah? And tanks rolled in to that place. And I won't say too much about it, except that I arrived in Hong Kong and suddenly China went into sort of imploded a bit. And I couldn't go to China where I wanted to go. And I wanted to go to Beijing. I wanted to go to the cultural main capital. And I ended up in Chengdu, which is an old capital. And in Chengdu, it's in Sichuan, where they make the wonderful spicy food. There was a master who was calling what he did Qigong, and that's because the government allowed people at the time to do Qigong. So you could have people sitting and meditating, and they say, what are you doing? They say, I'm doing Qigong. You could have people doing some sort of movement, and they say, oh, that's Qigong. And then you'd have somebody doing sending energy or energy healing, and they say, oh, that's Qigong. So because everything is energy, they could call everything Qigong. And only sort of 10 years down the line did he said, actually, it's not Qigong, it's Daoism. Yeah, so, but Daoism is, like, Buddhism doesn't really have energy. Yeah, and Buddhism is like, in Chinese, there's Buddhist practice and philosophy, not related to any belief. You just practice what the Buddha taught, and you do the exercises, as it were. And Daoism is the same. So you have practices in Daoism, which can be, inner alchemy or whatever. But I managed to end up with the guy who said, do nothing. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to teach you. Don't do anything. I'm like, okay, am I doing it now? No, you're not. Am I doing it now? No, still not doing it. And so, I was just with this guy. He's lifting his hands and he's moving people without touching them. And the people have got their eyes closed. So I'm thinking it's fake. I'm thinking this is hypnosis because you know, we know about hypnosis. Even at that time, I knew it can be a suggestion. Well, this lady from Germany was at the clinic where he was treating people as a Qigong master, because that's the term they use. And he put his hands up and was sending out his energy, and she moved backwards. And then he stood behind her and he sent out his energy and she moved forwards. I'm like, not a believer. And an old lady came up behind her, and with her hand, she sent energy to her arm. This woman, her arm shot forward. And I was like, I don't have an answer for that, because she's got her eyes closed. She doesn't know anybody else is involved. So yeah, something's happening that I don't understand. And that was, yeah, like a lot of people, that moment of not understanding, thinking, is there something else happening? You know, that got me down that road. And then 3 days later, he did something which in Daoism is called putting a seed inside me, which sounds pretty suspect, like, I don't want your seed in me. But basically I said, yeah, okay, well, whatever, yeah, expecting, you know, something funny. And it was an energetic seed. So I mean, it's called a zhong in Chinese. So sha zhong, so sha means go down, so they plant an energetic transmission. And literally you could, like, later you sometimes, I think once in my life, I saw it like traveling slowly, like a globe traveling slowly through the air and going into somebody. So it's like, whoa. But it wasn't a repeatable thing for me to be able to see that. And then, like, the world imploded in a way energetically. I was seeing the world in a completely different way, and I was knowing things that I couldn't know. So I was able to, which is, you know, they have in Chinese, they have 6 senses normally. So you have for Chinese, 6 senses is touching, smelling, feeling, seeing, tasting, is it? Yeah, okay. And then the 6th sense is the hand. So the mind brings all the 5 senses together. So that's the 6th sense in Chinese. So they call them 6 roots, liu gen, because roots split and these split up our senses. So then you had that's the yin side, and then the yang side was seeing but beyond sight, hearing but beyond sound, and so on. And so what opened up for me was feeling with my hands, but beyond touch. So I could feel somebody's sickness if they're in another country. And that blew me away, because I didn't believe it. Because I couldn't believe that that's possible. But I kept on experiencing it. And that was, I call it, like, for me, remote viewing, for example, Daz, you know, I came across remote viewing. It's like, well, that's not a big leap of faith at all. Yeah. It's just, I felt remote viewing. I met Lynn because of David Morehouse's book. I got in touch with Lynn, and he came over to teach us remote viewing, and it just made sense to me. But I could also put a whole story to it that I felt was more, I don't know, salon acceptable in the hairdressing salon, as they say, or something. Yeah.
When you mentioned that you became able to feel, for example, sickness in somebody who's in another country, is that a spontaneous thing that just sort of suddenly opened up and you were stuck with it on all the time? Or was it more like
pretty much
remote
that,
viewing where you would specifically you'd only get stuff that you're actually asking for?
Trying to think of the guy, the anthropologist that did the research on the shamans. So they have this a common theme in shamanism of breaking a membrane or breaking a barrier, so that somebody's energy field is open, and then you're able to exit through there and feel things outside. And to a certain extent, the person that isn't a shaman has a energy field which is intact, and then somebody who's, I don't know if shaman's the right word, but somebody who's had their energy field broken, was it through a trauma, or was it through hard work, or was it through a ritual, whatever, then they've got an ability, and that sometimes comes with some disadvantages. So I felt things that I didn't want to feel. It was like, I felt like initially it was on all the time, so my struggle was to try and shut it down at the beginning. And then later you shut it down and you're like, oh, what actually, could you start up? That was really attractive by, like CRV. One nice thing about it is, yes, I'm sure for a lot of people it's going to open up things, but it tends to be generally, I start, I get in, I'm really deep, and then I come out and I'm out. Yeah. So it's more like opening a door, walking through the door, going back to a door, walking back through the door, and then closing the door, which you don't necessarily have that when you do like these meditative processes that just really, I mean, it's not even a meditative process, because it's not meditation, it's nothing practice. Wu Wei it's called. So it's just nothing, and then he's got an energy field that he's set up, and you do nothing in that field, and bingo goes. All the lights go off, and then you leave, and your energy's out here, and you're feeling over there, in all directions. You're feeling in all directions, which is not comfortable. In fact, I would say it's schizophrenic. I would say I had to go. I'm not going to tell anybody about this, because I don't want to have was it Benzodrine, or what is it, the really hard, heavy drugs that they use.
It's not nice the way Western medicine treats the shaman sickness, is it?
Well, we're getting there. As far as I understand, the new approach to CBT3 is saying, okay, let me enter your world and be with you in your world. Let me at least understand your world when somebody is in their state, and then, okay, let me equip you with the skills to be okay with not being in the world, because when you become psychotic, it's more comfortable to be in a altered state than it is to be in the normal state, and that's why they stay psychotic. So you have to kind of go, okay, well, let me help you to return to the normal state, because right now you can say weird stuff, and people are going to just think you're weird and gone loopy, but you're in a really amazing, like, sometimes I think we've all experienced these states of, they're almost divine sometimes. And then states where it's not quite as nice. So getting somebody to go back is hard. And I didn't want to go, but I didn't want to lose the gift. I felt the gift of feeling things and being able to diagnose over a distance was worth keeping. And to a certain extent, I still have it. So, I've had it more and I've had it less, but yeah.
Do you think that training in remote viewing, where you practice accessing these faculties at will, has helped you to retain the parts that you want to retain?
Honestly, no, not really. So without, like, I'm not criticizing any teachers, but some of the targets that I got frightened the bejesus out of me. The first target I had was, the very first target, was a basketball court. and it wasn't a basketball court from a sports field, but it was was it Incan or Mayan? So it had the hole where the head was thrown through. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, for me to get this target, I've got to go. It's completely ridiculous. Yeah. How could this so I stood there in the first target, and I just said, I can see a jungle. That's all I can see. I just see a jungle. I literally arrived at the target and turned around and said, I'm not looking at that. Yeah. And I didn't know. I thought I'd failed. And later I realized, let's call them a bit silly. It was a bit of a silly choice of target.
Yeah.
And with remote viewing, you do have a problem that the person doesn't know what the target is, which is their strength. The other thing is they have to trust that when they're studying that they're going to be given a safe target. And your subconscious mind doesn't need to be screwed over many times before it says, I'm not doing that. I don't want to do that. Yeah. And I think if it was by design, because these guys were intelligence people, which I doubt, then, to sort of say, let's do some numbers on some psychic people, which I don't believe that. Yeah. But if it was, that would be a great way of doing it. Yeah. Or it was just like they hadn't really thought, they didn't really understand the psychic world themselves, and they just had some very unfortunate targets mixed in with some very good targets. So I hit some really good targets. So it convinced me, yes, this remote viewing is real. But it also convinced me, like, you really need a targeter that knows what they're doing. Yeah. So you need actually somebody who's really psychic that goes, oh, basketball court is not a good target for anybody at any point. Yeah. Unless they're already really advanced, they're going to be able to deal with the emotions that people were feeling at the time, and the dead bodies and the spirits were feeling at the time. It's always going to, with remote viewing, you've got this attractor thing, and it's always going to be the worst thing, the biggest thing that's going to attract us, and of course that's
or to repel us from things that we don't want to face.
Well, it would have overwhelmed me completely.
Your defense mechanism kind of kicked in, really, and that's why you turned towards the jungle more than the bouncing around the human head scene that was in front of you.
I mean, I think so. But at the time, I'm not wily enough to know the process and everything else, because I'd had psychic experiences, but I hadn't had, and this is what I'd say, like, the interesting thing is I found myself through the door so quickly that I would say, I mean, I've been at the side of a car accident. It's worse than being at the side of a car accident when you go there with remote viewing. You're more there than when you're there. You're a helper doing first aid.
You feel all the feelings of everybody there. So
I don't think people realize that. At least, sorry, I can't say that everybody feels like that, but I said that was my feeling. So to a certain extent, I also feel like the qualities that some of the remote viewers that do this incredible work, they're totally underestimated. Do you know what I mean?
We had a way that we could really train this resilience in a way that was kind of safe and ethical to do. Daz, you train people. Do you include the really gruesome, horrible stuff? How do you approach not freaking people out too much?
I do. There are I have a 125 target pool for mentees that I mentor. And it's a slow process, really. They're not in the first 30, 40 targets. But, after that, when they've been doing it for 6 months, I slowly introduce targets that may have death in the past, because it's a death event, like the Hindenburg crash, that kind of thing. Because, if they become operational at some point, they have to learn to encounter those kind of targets. But right off the bat, no. The first 3 months, it's boring stuff like mountains, lakes, bridges. big buildings in cities and stuff like that until they find their legs a little bit, really.
Makes sense.
It's a very subtle process. You have to be very careful. And even, we find in remote viewing and in normal psychic work as well, there are just some advanced people that have been doing RV or even psychic work for many years that is just not in their physical and mental makeup for them to, look at serial killers or murder cases or events where people die. It's just not something that they can cope with within themselves. I probably say that's probably about 10% or more of the people that I meet in the in my training services that will never have the capability to be able to do that kind of thing. It's just overwhelming for them.
I certainly don't like doing it, but then I don't watch horror movies or read books about murder and war and stuff just because I don't want to create that atmosphere for my mind. It's not good to be immersed in that stuff for me. So, and I'm still not over a couple of the targets in your public pool.
I do have
I
some
did them too early.
bad ones in there.
Yeah, I did them too early, and I got two absolute stinkers back to back. And it's taken a remote viewer for going on 7 years now, and I'm still not recovered.
I do have warnings now.
I know, but I think you don't understand the gravity of the warning, do you? Like, because
No.
got any?
It's hard to though, isn't it? Until you experience it, it's like you don't realize, whoa, this affects me at a level that's so deep.
Yeah,
I didn't realize.
That's always been my approach to learning, though. I remember when I was training TRV with Brett, and I can't remember what I'd done, but it was very gung ho. And he said, if you're out in the woods and you see a big hole in the ground and you're curious, you don't just stick your arm down it, do you? There could be a badger or a wildcat or something down there bite you. And I said, no, I stick my whole head down it. Let's find out what this is. And safety be damned. And that sometimes is an uncomfortable approach to learning.
Yeah.
Yeah, in Thailand, you're not going to do that because you get a cobra hanging off your nose. If it's badger, it's like not as bad, but like got a king cobra.
Yeah,
the
UK wildlife is quite tame. So
yes,
Richard, I'm very interested in what you're saying about this nothing state. In some of my classical psychic techniques before I found remote viewing, I managed to, or I was encouraged by, I would say non-human life forms, out there in the universe kind of thing, to get into a state. And they kind of trained me to get into a state where it's not really meditation, but it's in a state where I'm relaxed and I don't feel my body anymore. And I also don't feel where my mind is and what my mind's doing. Would that be similar to the nothing state, or is that something different?
So this is I'll give you the way that the classics describe it, and I'll say this is my understanding of the way the classics describe it. When you find yourself, you lose yourself. When you lose yourself, you find yourself. So it's not either of those. If you've lost yourself, obviously that's not it, is it? If you find yourself, well, that's not it. So it's in between. And my teacher would say, when you follow me, you don't follow me. When you don't follow me, you follow me. So he's going, got it. It's you want me to listen to you, but I've got to be discerning and I've got to find out what's right for me. And so he's kind of like perfectly put it. So in a way, I feel that you're saying that it's like, I'm there, but I'm not there. But if I'm not there, I wouldn't be there. Yeah. So, and that's very Chinese. That's very, I'd say, very Daoist or very Buddhist in the way it's described. Because they say for the Daoists, like the Tao, that literally is one of the most famous texts. The Tao that can be spoken of is not the true Tao. So why did he say that? Why do you need to say that? If you said it, but you said you can't say it, why did you say it? Because you can say it, but you can't. And so, yeah, it's just one of these funny, the whole Chinese culture is really up for a lot of interpretation. It's very implicit. So the Dao, for example, means reverse. And it means path, but it means reverse. So actually it means a path backwards, a path, instead of going forward, out, more, it means inward, inside, less. Yeah. So you end up with nothing. But if you have nothing, you don't have anything. So it's not that. So it's something that we can't describe. Yeah, so there's that. Is that too
It helps.
long-winded?
It helps. Were there any specific kind of methods or training that you were required to try to get to that area of yourself, that nothing?
So interesting. I find this really interesting. So the method of instruction was transmission of energy. So there's an interesting formula. So I need to work through it myself, but qi sui yi, li sui qi. So qi sui yi, energy follows intention. Power follows energy. Now we'd say, I think the Western version is where our thoughts flow or go, our energy flows, or something like that. It doesn't have the same level of depth, okay, but it's quite good. So what he would say was everything is energy. So every word you say contains energy. It contains the symbolic energy, and it contains an internal energy as well. Yeah. So if I say dog, for example, everyone knows what dog is, but everyone has a different experience of what dog is as well. Yeah. So he would say to get to being wordless is important. Yeah. So you can transmit something that is inexpressible. You can express something inexpressible purely energetically. So that was the Daigong. So you would literally just send energy, and then that would take your consciousness to a place, and then you'd kind of like try and work it in. So think of it like balance. Yeah. Let's take my shirt as an example, as my fascia or my tissue. And somebody takes my shirt and twists a part of it. Now, if that's my skin, my body has to try and bring that into my center so that it's less stress for my body. That's just physics. Yeah. Everything that's uncomfortable, I try and bring into a peace point. Our center line is our major peace point. Now, what he's done is he's put an artificial stress on me, on my consciousness, which is really comfortable with cars and everything, and the way I see things and so on, and my beliefs and everything else. He's put an artificial point on, and I've got to try and work that through. And sometimes it happens through emotions, sometimes it happens through physical movements, and sometimes energy. It feels weird, I'm going to say it, but things are moving inside. Like it feels like there's movement inside where there is no physical movement. Yeah. So you're shaking inside, but everyone thinks nothing's happening. So you're sitting there still and moving. Yeah. So there's yin and yang, of course.
Could you compare for us the idea of the wordless thing which is transmitted energetically with the experience in remote viewing where we learn our own language, where we've got a sort of the feeling of something and we can't quite put a word to it, and then we get our feedback and go, oh, that was the feeling of the seashore or a starry night or something, and I didn't quite find the word, but we learn to separate the experience of something from the linguistic label we put on it. Is that a useful analogy for understanding the sort of thing, wordless thing, which can be transmitted energetically, or is it different?
Wow, that's such a deep question. That's such a good question. So it's really interesting. Taoists are not interested in these powers. Okay, so the goal of the path has nothing to do with the powers. So you have generally, so the Indians call them siddhis, yeah, and in Chinese it's gongneng. So I think it's tesu gongneng or something like that. It's called something like that in Chinese. Okay, and I'm not a Chinese scholar, but I had to learn Chinese to understand this guy. He said literally, you're going to have to learn Chinese because the language holds secrets. So for the Taoists, anything you're feeling like extra power is a problem for you because you're gonna grab hold of it and say this is that. But what they're trying to do with Taoism is they're trying to, karate means the way of the empty hand. You're trying to open the hand and be completely sort of transparent, like a just let it flow, yeah, as it were. Be like the Dalai Lama's hot dog, one with everything. Yeah. You're trying to be a Dalai Lama's hot dog. Yeah. So my personal interest was the energy. My personal interest was the powers because I'm Western. I can grab hold of that. Now he said, if you want them, you're going to have to let go. So he's got you then, hasn't he? He's got you by the short and curlies, as it were. It's like I've got to try and get these, but I'm not allowed to get them. Yeah. And I was this, I'd done my black belt, similar to Daz. I'd done my black belt, like I know how to train. That means I know how to train, I know how to work hard. Yeah. So I'm gonna try really, really hard to get this spiritual stuff. Of course, that it doesn't work like that. Yeah. So you almost have to say, like, I need to try really, really hard and then give up and then still continue. And then something opens.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
It's
But that's Taoism. So, in fact, you know what they say? They say the gongneng, so the special abilities, are to earn money.
yeah.
That's what they're for.
Or to keep yourself entertained once you've reached the end of your path.
I've got Netflix.
Why not? Something to do, isn't it? So
You must try Netflix.
What we're discussing now is very much what me and David have talked about this a lot, especially with our students. It's very much happens to us within remote viewing in that you get to a level of, you train for years and years and years. And then at the point where you let go and you say, okay, I don't care anymore. I don't care if I'm on target. I don't care if I get results. I'm just doing it for the experience. It's for me kind of thing. That's when remote viewing works for you, and you reach this level where somehow it just all clicks from that point onwards. It seems like we're trying, maybe not in the exact same way, but it seems like we're trying to attain the same kind of state within our remote viewing as you are.
I think it's the same effect, isn't it? It's attachment to results. It's grasping onto the thing, and it doesn't allow the thing to happen because we're clinging to it.
Can I give you a little, like a preview of the book I'm writing? It's on Gongfu. So Gongfu is actually used to mean special ability, because Gong, as I say, Gongneng is special ability or function, and Fu, well, it's supposed to mean husband, or like a great person. Yeah, of course, all husbands are great people. Yeah, as we know. Now, if you look at the characters broken down, so they are ideograms. Yeah, so the first one is a tool, but it's a line at the top, a line at the bottom, and connected. So heaven and earth connect. So that's interesting. The second line means power. Now, so connecting to power, no. You have to go back about 4,000 years and you find it's a plow. What do you do with a plow? You break the soil, you penetrate earth, yeah? And you don't do it once. You do it again and again and again and again. And you just keep on doing. And what does it take? It takes balance. It takes control. It takes concentration. You got this blooming great ox in front of you, pulling you. you've got to try and keep that straight. And you've got so many things to do at the same time. So you have down penetration. Now, if I said to you that Fu looks exactly like the character for heaven, except heaven is two lines, and then you have like these two lines going off left and right. And Fu just goes through the second line. So it goes through heaven. So you're penetrating above. So you have penetrating below, penetrating above. So you have yin and yang balanced in the two characters. And then Gongfu means I am penetrating to a new level because I repeated something over and over and over. And so Gongfu now has a new meaning. That's why I talk about we should try and interpret rather than just say, oh yeah, Gongfu is punching someone in the mush. Yeah. Yeah. So that's a preview. But you know what I think we should do is I think people, when they learn remote viewing, they should learn some energy work that they can go and repair themselves when they hit these targets, because I didn't know of that at the time. Yeah.
That would be
so
wonderful.
you hit,
I think that's something that's really lacking in remote viewing instruction, is because when you do too much remote viewing, you feel very drained of energy, and it's a very particular sort of feeling of being drained. And we don't have in the West tools to deal with that other than telling people go and take a rest, go and touch the grass and go in the woods and try and sort of rebalance or eat a bunch of chocolate. That works. But we haven't got a proper model of it or techniques to deal with it. Do the skills that you've learned, do you think those are applicable to that situation, that draining of energy?
I've got to say, I am gagging to do a test. I talked with Yana Rogger. I talked with her. I said she's really busy. Okay, she's got other fish to fry. So I said, Yana, I want to do a test of 5 remote viewers that get energy work before they do sessions for 5 sessions. And I want 5 sessions that they don't get energy work. So what the energy work that I'm particularly interested in is this centered, getting people to a centered space. Yeah. So it's not, they should just feel, I get it right, I get it wrong. Yeah, whatever. Yeah. And then you've got people who are saying, okay, I'm going to get the target, however they are. And you'll actually, I believe, you're going to get better results. And if we're talking about efficacy, I think a best practice is have people who, you don't just have a monitor and a project manager, but you have, okay, let's check, are these people energetically strong to viewing this target? Because if they're not, I don't want them viewing it. Yeah. And that's what with my energy work, because I wasn't strong to visiting the targets that screwed me over and said, and I can still do remote viewing. I just got too many other things to do. It's something I really, really think. When I moved from Germany to Hong Kong, it's one of the books that I said, I've got a number of kilos I can carry. I'm taking those books. They're worth it. Yeah. So I've got a deep respect for remote viewing. But yeah, I think it's missing. I think it could be the we say in English, cross your T's and dot your I's. It's like the making sure everything's in place. The Chinese saying, put the eye on the dragon. Yeah. But the thing is, when you put the eye on the dragon, a dragon is made of papier-mâché and cloth. But in Chinese, when you put the eye on, the spirit enters the dragon. And I think it could be something which really makes an enormous difference to remote viewing. So, but I mean, I've never tried it. So
well,
let's try it.
Yeah. Between David and myself, we know enough remote viewers that we could get a few together to do a trial or something with you.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
I want something that I can teach which will equip people to kind of manage their own energy rather than it being like a weird thing that happens to you as a remote viewer, which it is. You can do too much remote viewing and you can end up in a right pickle, or you can occasionally, I don't know, has this happened to you, Daz, where you've been zapped by some targets that cause like a well, it feels like electric shock or something in your body. It's relatively common in,
Mm.
you know, odd experiences people have. I've had it a couple of times, including in remote viewing. But we treat energy in the body as remote viewers as just like a thing that happens to us that we don't understand properly. And it would be great if we could do a lesson on that will just equip people to understand have some simple models. What's going on in me? What can I do to make sure everything's all right and help myself recover and protect myself, or be more energized or more in alignment with the target or whatever. So
I wrote a book about energy, and you could say the basic structure of energy. I wrote this book, and then I wrote a book about the training manual, which I'm holding upside down. No, I'm holding the right way up. The training manual for energy
basic
work.
training manual.
And then I wrote Energy of Consciousness, which is so. My teacher gave me a great shortcut to understanding energy. He said, if you want to understand energy, you need to understand nothing. Which, you know, we were talking, Daz was mentioning about this nothing state. I'm thinking, no wonder Daz is such a kick-ass remote viewer. He's gone to this place. He didn't know at the time that I was going to come and talk about this, but you know, that's core, you know. So some things led you there. And then if you want to understand nothing, then you need to understand, or you need to understand yourself.
Yeah.
And yourself at the end of the day is energy. So you come back full circle. It's like, okay, so I need to understand myself and nothing, which is at the core of self, as we were talking about this before, David, before we came on. The self, I have a psychology degree. It was worth every single penny. I had to pay for it privately. I was in Hong Kong, paid at an American university. It was worth every penny. But essentially, we know nothing. We know nothing about psychology, really. We've got models. And at the end of the day, what we find is a lot of nothing. But that isn't to reject. That's the mystery. That's okay. It's so isn't it Stoics? The Stoics are taking your hard truths and living with them and sitting with them.
Yes.
You know, it's so Stoic. You know, yeah. I know nothing. I don't know who I am. I know nothing actually. So, yeah.
So that's the shortcut. What's the long version?
Well, life will teach you all the lessons.
Yeah.
You're going to make all those mistakes, and they're not really mistakes if you look at them as learnings. And if you there's a book, isn't there, Finite and Infinite Games? So there's this idea that if you take the finite nature of your thinking and put infinity on the end of it, and you say, okay, so I can do this forever. Now there's a changing quality. So the mistakes you're making now and over again, at some point it's going to dawn on you, you know.
Yeah.
In which case you could say the big vehicle or the small vehicle, I think they call in Buddhism, you know, that the eventual enlightenment, or I need to be enlightened in this life. And for me, I think we're already enlightened. I think we already are Buddha, you know.
But then
I'm 61. I've not got that much time left, so I guess, you know,
that's what I say.
I'm not as worried anymore, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's all the energy that makes up the illusion of self, which is sitting there convinced that it is unenlightened, though, isn't there? Which I think is the thing which gets bothered. And people mistake it for their self and say, I'm bothered by this. And the energy is sitting there going, spinning around.
Yeah.
Getting upset with it.
So there's really interesting models which sort of fit. I think psychotherapy is moving towards shamanism in a lot of ways. So the models like IFS and these other part therapies where people talk to parts.
I think that's IFS, isn't it? Or is there
IFS is like the flavor of the month. Yeah.
Mm.
And I don't mean that and with any disrespect. It just seems to be like really
Mm.
catching a wind. But essentially, the IFS is copied to a certain extent. Some of the ideas were taken from other places, or were just lucky coincidences. And shamanism's been doing it for thousands of years, talking to
Mm.
elementals, talking to spirit animals, and
Yeah.
so on. So now psychology or psychotherapy, which is extremely unscientific, by the way, but it gets measurable results, which is great. You're engaging with these parts until you reach the self. Now, the self, what does it feel like? It's almost, well, it feels like nothing. So you suddenly say, well, this isn't a part. I feel a openness, an expansiveness, a curiosity. Curiosity, remember, is the key to remote viewing, I think.
Yeah.
Being curious about a target. So this curiosity is woken up, and unconditional love, and knowing, So these are all things that Richard Schwartz from IFS, he's the founder of IFS. So he says, oh yeah, if you're in self, which I think probably is the biggest contribution that IFS makes. He talks a lot about self, getting people to find self, sit in self, and know when they are in self, and then recognize when a part is coming up and hijacking your behavior. And energetically, you can do the whole thing energetically. The interesting thing is when you're energetic, you can do it for somebody else, that's kind of freaky, but it's cool. But I think it also has its limitations. And it's also the Ouroboros. So I talk about this in Energy of Consciousness. I'm not going to pull my books out every minute, but so Energy of Consciousness, I think a lot of our perception is we are looking for things that are already in our mind. So there's this snake who's trying to swallow his own tail. I'm trying to agree with my own thoughts. Yeah. The problem that we have as psychics, as remote viewers, is people, like I was talking about, this sunk cost fallacy. I'm so invested in the world not being psychic, I have too much to lose. I better just stick with this. The world is not psychic. It's a sunk cost fallacy. So they don't realize actually they'd be better off dropping that model and joining the party. But it makes sense, you know.
Yeah.
So
Wow, we are coming up on the hour, but Richard, we talked about doing an exercise that people can join in with at home so that they can experience this for themselves. Is there something we could do which is going to be safe? I don't want any fires getting blamed on us or phones exploding in people's hands. Can we find a way to experience?
That's actually one of the reasons I like this is you work with centralized energy. So everything finds balance. If you want to find something center of gravity, all you have to do is let it go and it's going to find its center of gravity. So everything finds balance. So the balance is in the center. So we all know where your balance point is in your body because it's in the pelvis, in the middle of the body, like the tanden. Martial artist Daz would know that. So, but you've also got a central line where the tanden, so the dantian in Chinese, meets a middle dantian and an upper dantian, which would be in Qigong, you'd know about these things. So that forms a line going from the top of the head through the body and coming out through the crotch, between where the legs meet, as it were.
Yeah.
So that is where our energy body is balanced.
Yeah.
So I call that the center line. Now, when we are upset, we tend to go out of our center line. Yeah. When we are like, somebody gives you really good news, you go, you enter into your center. And a lot of Qigong kung fu, karate is about aligning these so that you're in your power, and you're literally physically stronger when you're in this structure. So if I put energy in your center line, the Reiki way, and I don't mean it disrespectfully, but actually the Reiki way is going to take time. I've got to stand there for 10 minutes and, but Chinese said intention is the leader of energy. So I just go intention in your center line and the energy is there. Yeah.
Yeah.
The line is already there. It's like maybe it's like a dry riverbed, but it's certainly already there. So if I do that, and that's if your problem is because you don't have energy in your center line, yeah, then you're going to feel better immediately. If the problem is somewhere else, then I can use my psychic ability to, and the thing is with this psychic ability, you don't have to hit a target. You just have to say something that's valid. Yeah. So if, say, for example, you got a headache and I put energy in your center line, if it was that your center line was just weak, your headache would immediately get better. If I thought, okay, what is causing that headache? What's weakening you? Then I think, oh, you're worried about your car. And then I strengthen your center line to your car. So I'm thinking about your weakness to your car and strengthen and I literally say the strengthening part is you imagine a flash of light,
Yeah,
or lightning or whatever you want, like neon, water, whatever, but it happens that fast, like a clicking of the fingers, that shoots down the center line or up the center line, doesn't matter which direction. Yeah.
Yep.
So that being said, is there any discomfort you've got that you'd like to work on? We can work on something very physical.
Yeah.
But you have to have it right now. So it's something you have right now.
Well, I have a bit of a rough throat, as you might be able to hear from burning way too much frankincense in here yesterday. So would we be able to work on that?
Yeah. If you do you have a feeling about it right now?
Well, yeah, it feels a little bit phlegmy. It's not painful. Do
Phlegmy.
I need to find a
Phlegmy,
painful
okay.
thing?
Well, you know what? It's a bit like remote viewing. I don't mind. It might not work. That's okay.
We'll just give it a go.
I just give it a go. Okay. And then if you can think of something, Daz, if you've got anywhere that's a bit tight or sore, I will do that afterwards.
I was going to say I have a huge shopping list, but yeah, I can pick one.
Okay, well, just give me the hardest one. Give me the toughest one.
The toughest one is a long-term
Oh.
illness of it's called chronic pelvic pain syndrome.
Do you have pain in your pelvis right now?
Yeah, yes, most of the time, yes.
Okay, so we'll work on that. Well, I'll work on the throat first.
Okay.
And all I need you to tell me is the pain you have right now.
Yes, I do have that.
When I do that. Okay.
That's why I'm standing.
Yeah. Okay, David, what's the level of discomfort? And it doesn't have to be pain. You're just going to give it a level out of 10. 10 is the highest and 0 is no pain or no discomfort.
So it's barely over 1. It's
barely over 1. All right. So
more a sensation I can notice rather than it being unpleasant. It's just
So I'm going from probably the least to the hardest.
I'll stop sounding like I've just smoked a whole packet of cigarettes if we have success.
Right. Okay, so I'll do. Let me say, there's only 24 weaknesses. We're going to strengthen your chest, your lungs, your stomach, your vagus nerve, and I feel like solar plexus and a little bit of like vibration in and out of your body. So strengthen the center line. And delete, cumulative effects, strong, and issues strong. Okay, so how does that feel now?
Well, let's see how I sound. It actually does feel a little bit more comfortable. Do I sound? Oh shit, I do sound better. Wow,
it does sound better, doesn't it?
Look at that. That's science. That you can return to the beginning of the podcast and listen to me. So there's still a little bit of phlegm in there, but hey, that's
okay.
I didn't notice a great deal of sensation when you're doing that, but my voice is noticeably.
So the weird thing about this, when you're working with energy intention, which I think why this is kind of a new wave of energy work, and it's not mine. I mean, the guy that developed this was a guy called Dr. Cam Yun, who gave the name to somebody at the end of his life. He said the other person, you're going to call it Yun method. I wrote a theory for it because he said it has no theory. So I wrote a theory for it and said it can't be Yun method because it has a theory. But essentially, I'm very much for referencing. So that's one thing I learned from my degree is just give people their respect. He's passed on, Dr. Cam Yun's passed on. So great respect to Dr. Cam Yun. You don't feel energy, you just feel better. Yeah. So we'll have.
So
All right.
would you
So
say that we're working with a kind of informational layer rather than we're not working with brute force? We're not trying to move the energy itself by kind of grabbing onto it and shoving it around. We're
yeah,
instructing
no,
this is how it
don't do
will
that.
be.
So people are very people. There are some people, their model is there's bad energy and there's good energy. This model says there's energy that I'm weak to, and I should be strong to it because I should be balanced. I just need to be balanced in my center. That's all. So when I go to see a target, there's information I'm weak to, but it's all just information. It's just information. Yeah. So it's got a little bit of a similarity to it. So it's less pulling, or especially so if somebody comes and they want to be treated for cancer, I check that the energy is strong for cancer and having it and not having it. The analogy is, when you're going for an interview, I'm sure this has happened to one of us at least. You're going for an interview and you don't care whether you get the job. You're just doing it for practice and you get that job because you don't care.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I'm neutral. It doesn't matter, whatever. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that is the state and you feel it.
Well, I think we would call that detachment from results, which is
I call it the flow state, so but yeah.
Yeah, I think being centered or being in self, all of these are so a lot of the energy of consciousness I talk about about that, because when you're in self, when you do meditation, you actually enter that state. You feel you probably felt that pillar. Some people call it the Kundalini. Yeah. Literally on earth as it is in heaven is building that pillar. Yeah, that Lord's Prayer thing. It's I think it's in every single a spiritual experience, and I think religion is the corpse of spiritual experience. Personally, that's a quote. I can't remember who said it, but I know it's not my saying. But I like it because it reminds you it's the experience that's primal and how we deal with it. Daz, what's your discomfort?
It's not much at the moment today. It's
That's
probably not much more than David's at the moment. It's just an uncomfortable one. It's probably about a 1.5.
Okay, so discomfort is 1.5.
Yeah.
Okay, so you might be able to say it's same or different.
Yeah.
All right. So so how do I do it? First of all, I could just strengthen your center line, but I'm gonna access the insight. So insight it's beyond our knowing. If you knew what this was about, you'd have fixed it, of course. Yeah. So I've got to go to not knowing, which is that nothing state that you were talking about before, Daz.
Yeah.
So I think it's exactly that. But I'm doing it for you because I've got a little bit more distance. Yeah.
Yes.
And I can also, as not having the needing to be factually correct is not a burden for me. I only need to be valid, which means it could be a metaphor of what this is. Yeah. So good enough. As long as I get results, and it's good enough. So well, first of all, I just have to go to this empty space. So I stop thinking. That's how you go to the empty space. You stop thinking completely for a split second. And then actually I get it's so interesting because I get right in the middle of the sacrum at the lowest part, I get there's something going on. So it's, you're weak to it. So we're going to strengthen you to that. Are you still weak to it when I strengthen you to it? I'm going to say to delete that and all of the other problems, I've got to affect 86,000 different things. So 86,432 different things. So it's just a number. And then to strengthen that, I feel like I've got to strengthen you to a certain extent, like exhaustion, and just like I've been doing something over and over again. So strengthen you for that. And when I think of exhaustion, I feel like the body is physically a little bit out of balance. So I want to strengthen you to being in balance and out of balance. So whether you're in balance in any direction, yeah, that's now strong. And then and I feel like I want to strengthen the heart. Yeah. So is that we'll ask, is that physical? So the physical is weak. So we're going to strengthen when I say heart, it's energetic heart. So I still want to strengthen the physical energetic heart. So we could check the AV node, and all of the electrical system is all strong, the muscles strong, the arteries and the coronary arteries and vein all strong, and the heart muscles all strong. Good. Okay. So and the valves all strengthen the valves. Okay, strengthen everything around there. Okay, then the next thing is I want to strengthen a feeling in the arms, in the hands, needing to keep on going, the gallbladder, the liver. Okay, and so the gallbladder and liver is very much connected with the peritoneum, which is connected with the vagus nerve, so strengthen that. And then the final thing that I want to strengthen, so I want to strengthen something in the brain. So we check the brain is strong, the circulation, the neurotransmitters, the so the ventricles, and so front to back, strong, back to front. So back to front we have to strengthen, left to right, right to left, strong, and then all directions from inner to outer. Okay, so strengthen and delete. Okay, just check.
Sorry. Why?
Same or different?
Different. It's weird. Because I class myself as a person who's been doing this kind of stuff for many years. I can actually feel minute changes then in my system, and it was weird because all the things you listed are actually all the things that I do have physical problems with. So I do have a because of COVID, I do have a heart arrhythmia. I also have tinnitus, and you went to the brain for that, and you went to the hands, and because I have a vitamin B12 deficiency, I have a bit of neuropathy in my fingers on occasion as well.
He said,
I was feeling like buzzing in the fingers. That's so cool. I was like, oh,
so you literally did hit every one of my major illness issues without me telling you any of them. Yeah. And I did. I can't say the uncomfortableness is fully gone, but I did feel as you were doing it, because I do feel that I'm very in touch with every part of my psychic kind of body. I did feel the energy differences, very subtle energies. It's very interesting.
That's one of the things that I think could really help a lot of people. I don't know what you think, Daz, but as far as psychicness is the interoception, so your feeling of your body inside.
Yeah,
it's all very well trying to directly go. I mean, I'm great, go out into space and be out there, but it's literally being in your flesh and feeling your flesh and feeling your guts and feeling your spine and feeling your bones and so on. It just does. There's so much in it.
Yeah, and I guess because we're remote viewers, we're so used, because it's my day job, so I'm like off doing silly things like that every day of the week almost. You kind of forget that your own self needs as much attention as you're giving everything else out there, really. So that was a really interesting experiment and a new lesson for me as well. To like, I need to slow down a little bit and have some
Yeah, I
introspection as
wouldn't say
myself.
that. So interestingly, all I'd say is like you need to be strong to what you're doing.
Okay. Yeah.
That it's so generally it's really interesting. If I said, oh, somebody said they got if I said, oh, you're weak to fish, and you go, oh, I've got a fish allergy, I shouldn't eat that.
Yeah.
The Cameron would say, no, you need to be strong to it, then you can eat it. He said you can eat poison if you're strong to it.
Yeah.
Not that I'm suggesting that anybody
Yeah.
should eat poison. Yeah. But Rasputin survived more, what was it, cyanide than could kill an elephant, and didn't die. He didn't die from it.
Yeah.
So, it's fascinating. But yeah, thanks. That's great. Well, we'll work on, get in touch with me. We'll work on that, Daz. That'd be
Yeah, it was a
interesting.
great experiment. I'd like to speak to you further as well, out of today's podcast about and maybe David will as well, about maybe doing some of this energy stuff that will help remote viewers, not only before they do their work, but also afterwards, especially if they encounter something that puts them a bit off balance and stuff as well.
We haven't even talked about it, but I mean, one thing that in the last couple of years has been very present for me, and you might need to edit this out, but is spirit attachments or entities that just managed to
we talk
hitchhike
about
on
definitely.
hitchhike on.
Yeah, no, we've all encountered hitchhiker type effects.
Yeah, and literally, it doesn't cover everything, okay, but a lot of the time people's problems, they're not their problems, they're the hitchhiker's problems.
Yeah.
And the hitchhiker's trying to get help, and he's just found, oh, there's a guy here, we'll go here. And that may be a little bit simplifying it and cartoonifying it, but sometimes the gift that we've got in connecting to these other dimensions can be a gift to entities who are lost in these other dimensions. So that can be really beautiful.
That could be a whole new second hour podcast that we could do.
I think you know what it is, but yeah, it's fascinating. It's been such a great pleasure meeting you guys.
Yeah, it's been fantastic. Great experience, and it gave me much to think about because what you're doing is very much what we're doing in remote viewing anyway. It's just we didn't recognize it. And we're doing it within martial arts, and I also do it with my creativity as well. So it's the same thing, really.
It's all
I think so.
It's just different lenses, which
Absolutely.
is what this podcast is about, right? Is we're speaking to really different perspectives, like Richard's energy versus our sort of remote viewing stuff. But we're looking at the same things, aren't we? And we've got very different models. And there's so much value in learning more than one model because it allows us to triangulate on what the real thing is. It's like the finger pointing at the moon. Don't look at the finger, look at the moon kind of thing. But if you have lots of fingers, it makes it much easier to find the moon.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot to talk about. That was a lovely philosophical
Before we go, though,
note.
can you just tell us about your free books again and where people can buy them? And are they print or can we get them as ebook as well?
So these I've written 5 books.
Okay.
I've been busy. I'm on Amazon. I've got them this is printed from Kindle. So it's they let me upload the book and then they print it off individually.
Yeah.
But it arrives in like a couple of days. Takes them a couple of days to print it. The one that I always say to people, like, it's like the CRV. I was inspired by the training manual that was leaked and then published that you've put, Daz, very kindly have put up as well. I mean, I thought this should be there for everybody. I certainly, maybe it's the Anglo-Saxon in me that I believe in fairness, and we should all have access to this knowledge. It shouldn't be all about, a select few. So the democratization of mind and energy, I believe in that. And so I put it up for, I think it's $9.99 on Kindle, on Amazon. And I've talked to Yana. As I say, she's really busy. She keeps on talking to me about publishing it with Visor, which is brilliant. But
Awesome. Yeah.
nothing's happened yet. So
Yeah. Are they available as Kindle ebooks as well?
yeah.
Excellent. Because I tend not to buy print books anymore. I stick everything on my Kindle in a big library.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
me too.
excellent.
I've got the Kindle Scribe, which is brilliant.
Awesome, Daoist.
Because
Yeah,
I like the big
great for
screen.
remote viewing. Yeah,
I write notes in the middle of the book,
yeah,
and that's brilliant.
yeah, fantastic.
And yeah, I've got so many there, but it's really cool.
Awesome. I will be going shopping when we finish.
Yeah, I think
Well,
Yeah.
that's brilliant.
It's been an awesome chat, and as we discussed, I'm sure we can. If you're game, we could have you back to do a couple more. Especially like I think we could do a really good one on potential hitchhiker kind of effects and maybe how to negate those, because that's a big problem within remote viewing. If I'm honest with you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's a big problem in society.
Yeah, generally,
I think a lot of mental illness comes from that.
Yeah.
Seriously. So
yeah,
and I have references. I have
Excellent.
Many
That's a definite then if you're up for that for a rehash.
Cool.
Excellent.
Defo.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much, Richard, and thank you to our listeners. Go to Amazon and check out Energy Work, the Basic Training Manual. Is there anywhere else you can buy the book, or is it only Amazon?
You can go on my website, wicksway.com, and there's a free version which explains the absolute basic method I put up there. So most of my methods I put up for free at some point, and like shortened versions. And then this is the contents of a 2-day training workshop that people can do with me. And I think it's worth doing, but you don't have to do it. If you get results, like results are king.
Yeah.
Awesome. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Right. Well, thank you very much to our listeners as well for being with us today, and we will see you all next time. Goodbye.
Have you ever felt like those right? Have you ever had an entity just right up your rescue with all the predator? Something is started to